Welcome, everybody, to another Kicking Tables. My name is Sean.
And I'm Tycko.
And today we'd like to welcome Jim Fitzpatrick, the creator of Mission to Planet Hexx, which is now on Kickstarter. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Hello, it's good to be here.
So, Jim, can you tell us a little bit about Mission to Planet Hexx? The version you're bringing to Kickstarter is actually version 2.0. So tell us, why version 2.0, and tell us a bit about the game itself.
Well, I think the reason that I have two editions is when I first started to design it, it took me a while to figure out that people everywhere might want to play it. The first edition is a very informal edition. I was inspired to create the game because friends who are game creators, who I now work with Move Rate 20 Games, were working on a game, and I had this concept for years, and I thought, well, if they can do it, so can I. So I did a rough prototype, and we went through the whole, print and play. I made all the art myself on MS Paint, and I cannot tell you the number of times I printed it out on cardstock from Target, cut it out, revised it, printed it out, cut it out again, and we're talking 120 plus hexagonal cards.
So a truly made-at-home game.
Yeah, and then I discovered the Game Crafter. So I thought, oh, somebody can make this and make it look good. And I started to become addicted to going to conventions around the end of 2016. And people just played it. And after a while, I said, if you should really take this seriously. So that's what I'm doing with version 2.0. We're talking about professional art and professional production, bringing the price point down, all that sort of thing. So this version 2.0 is me sort of going for the big time.
So this really originally was created for you and your close friends, and then you found by taking it to conventions that more and more people were wanting to play this. So that's what this is. This is you taking the game more mainstream.
Exactly. So, I brought it to my first convention thinking, I hope somebody plays it, and it was back-to-back games all day. So that sort of opened my eyes to the idea that maybe there was something to it.
So what is Mission to Planet Hexx? Tell us about the game itself.
Well, its origins are, I'm a Doctor Who fan, among other things.
Yes. Thank you. Awesome. That's good.
For a hot second, it had a time traveling theme too.
I love it.
But everything in the kitchen sink, you have to take something out. So I wanted a game where you could travel around space and planets and do something. And I've discovered by looking at other games and designing games that I love map building games. So I knew I wanted space and planets and things to happen. And it all sort of I made a master document one afternoon and just wrote it all out. And conceptually, it was almost fully formed. And then it needed the time that I took to bring it to designers and that sort of thing for them to help me think about it in a game designer way, because at the time I was not a game designer.
Okay.
I just wanted that adventurous, on Doctor Who, basically, and I'm talking classic now just because that's sort of where my head is at with that. You arrive somewhere, 4 episodes, you leave and you go somewhere else, and you have adventures in between. So it's a little bit like that, where each planet is special and does something special for you. And there's, the silliness of Doctor Who is a big part of it. The art is very silly, and the concepts are very silly, and it's very swingy and full of take that. You've got your strategy, but you've also got that for those people who aren't interested in strategy and just want to cause trouble. We have that too.
Awesome.
I like causing trouble. That's my thing.
Oh, definitely.
There's always one who says, "I'm that guy."
What's the player count for this game? What's the minimum and maximum player count?
It's 2 to 4 players.
Okay.
It's a customizable game. It shares a lot of qualities with collectible and limited card games. So we're creating an expansion which you can add or remove and add and remove cards, and that might take it to 6 players. Jury's out right now. The idea is you don't want to have people waiting because it's a turn-based game. So the base game is 2 to 4 players, ages 10 and up. You need reading skills and some concept of how to play, game tabletop games. And let's see, what else can I say about it? A lot of people describe it as a gateway game, but I think those are more heavy-duty gamers.
Okay.
People who've never played the game say, this is a little bit much for me, and I feel like we fall somewhere in between.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that's a good place to be, because you don't want to be too simple, and you also don't want to be too complicated. Like, I think so I think what they're meaning is by saying gateway, it's not too simple to bring people in, but it's like I said, it's not as complicated as others, so it's easier to get into these types of games because you kind of sit right there in the middle. So that's a great place to be.
And this game, you can dedicate yourself to the strategy of it, or you can play it casually, still enjoy it, and have a conversation with your friends while you're doing it. You know?
That's
so
good.
I suppose it's what you decide to do as a player.
What with from going from like the 1.0 to 2.0 versions, what are the big differences? Is it just cosmetic, or have you tweaked gameplay as well?
Well, lots of angles to that answer. You guys are great with your questions. Yes, mostly cosmetic, because in first edition, I always would take note of the things that people liked and didn't like. A lot of people liked the gameplay, and the MS Paint art was split down the middle. You loved it or you hate it. There was no middle ground there. I had a reviewer say, I really like this game, but the art is fill in the blank. So I thought, well, I can fix that. You can fix that. And I found an artist just by accident online, it jumped out at me, and I said, that's conceptually what I want. It's different, it's fun. And so that was easy to fix. But as we've gone along, my personal life has meant that the life of the game has been a little bit longer than I expected. So it's had a lot of playtesting. So yes, I have made game changes, changes to the individual cards so that they adhere to, in groups to certain concepts, so that it's easier to teach. Right. Not to go into any details, but you're always looking at the cards that people don't want to play for some reason, and saying what's wrong with it.
Why does nobody like this card? Yeah, and we've all come across games where there's cards that you feel like, why is this card in the deck?
Exactly. And as a designer, I want all my children to be loved.
Right. How long a journey has it been by the time you decided to do 2.0?
Oh, well, the master document that I was talking about was, I think, April or May of 2016.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then
it's been quite a long time.
Oh yeah. Well, but then I took the summer off, and I didn't take it seriously, and I brought it to a Boston convention in the fall because somebody wanted to split the cost of their table with them.
Okay.
So I was roped in, and I said okay. And then people played it, so I geared up to start going to the big conventions in 2017. My first PAX East. I went to SnowCon in Maine, where they were so nice to me. That set the tone for me going to conventions for the rest of ever. But 2.0 rolled around the middle of last year.
Okay.
I think early in the middle of last year, where I said, you know what, this is going really well, but it could go better. We could eliminate, like I said, those critiques that we're getting and just have everybody love everything. So I dove deep into it and found this artist, like I said, and sort of started this year with the idea that I was going to go to all these live conventions. We started out great at PAX South. We were in the Indie Showcase. I was going no matter what. I had made all my plans. I had booked all my hotels, and then they said, yes, you're accepted. So I thought, great, now I don't need a reason to go. They gave me one.
Right.
But as the story, this was going to be my first Origins, my first Gen Con.
Yeah.
And that all went south. And so now I'm into online conventions. But we've pretty much stayed on track. I'm amazed, frankly. I mean, I think we deserve it, and I was hoping that we would be funded, but in 5 days that was acceptable. I'm happy about that.
You just got funded recently, I believe, didn't you? It's just
Yes, we were at Gen Con, or I was at Gen Con running the game in events, and by the end of the evening at about midnight, I think, talk about karma. We were funded, and so that's the beginning of this week. We're just adding stretch goals.
So what was the reception like at Gen Con online?
Uh, it's funny because I'm one of those. The little child's voice in me always says, "If they don't like it, just smile." But universally, I mean, nobody said, and I've had people say to me, rarely that they didn't care for it. But no, I was about 2/3 full for my 15 events, and I got a lot of raving, and I got a lot of backers, so that was
Nice.
wonderful. I am always pleasantly surprised by how many people like it. So
Excellent.
it was a great experience.
Have you had a lot of success with? I know you're I think on Tabletopia as well. And is that helped?
It's mostly been driven by me doing online conventions. Gen Con was about, I think, the 7th one I went to. I started to get into it once I had something to show online. And that's my advice to people who are still moping about not going to the live conventions. I said, get your game up there, then you'll want to attend, and then you will reach audiences all over the world and all over the country. That's my favorite thing. But the reception was really great. One of the best things that can happen to a designer like me is when somebody who signed up for an early event signs up for a later one to play it again.
Yeah.
That's the sweet spot, man.
That's encouraging. That's encouraging. So you're on Kickstarter now.
Yes.
I believe it ends at the end of the month, close to the end of the month.
Something like the
20. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the 20. Is it the 28th? Is that right?
I don't recall off the top of my head.
August 28th is your Kickstarter end.
We launched on the 29th of July.
Right.
That was the original first day of Gen Con, but they shrunk it a little bit.
So do you have plans for stretch goals? Like, what are some of your stretch goals? Can you talk about any of them?
Well, we've got a couple product quality stretch goals. So, for example, first edition had cards eliminated from it that I used to use as convention promos.
Okay.
So, if you picked up a copy of that, you could get one or two of those for winning games or just stopping by the table. So what's going to happen is we have redesigned those, and the first stretch goal is to add them back into the set. That's sort of, on Kickstarter, people love a story. So I was encouraged to include a lot of the history and the lore of the game in presentation. Yeah. So I'm telling you, not only you're getting 6 cards, but the origin of them and where they came from. So that's our first stretch goal. And then things like, better card quality. Hex cards tend to take a beating, especially when they're shuffled by people who aren't used to shuffling Hex cards. And box and that sort of thing. And based on how it goes, I'm thinking about adding others, things like it's been suggested to me custom spaceships, because right now we're using standard rockets, which I actually like the standard rockets because the approach to the style of the game is retro sci-fi. So it's the vision of the future we had in the past. Jetsons, original Star Trek, Forbidden Planet, those 50s movies. Yeah. The name is meant to sound like the marquee of a 50s movie. It came from Planet Hexx. Yeah. So, and you'll see that in the style as well. So the rocket ships we have are very Destination Moon, rocket. What's the name of the movie? Rocket Ship XM, is it? I forget.
Tycko's the movie buff.
Yeah, I recognize that rocket shape. I think they've even used that in Fallout. They've got some of the Fallout bottles are shaped in that similar shape as well. And I love the look
when worlds collide,
feel of it.
It repeats over and over. When Mark, my artist, designed the logo, and there was that ship in the front, I said, that's exactly right. You're taking off for parts unknown. Because you are a space cadet in the game on your first mission. You've just graduated. All the ships start on the space base. And then you just start adding. It's a literal exploration of the universe, one space and planet at a time.
Now, I don't think if we touched on this or not, but is this a cooperative or is this a versus game?
It is not. It is for a game with cute art. It can get very cutthroat.
Okay.
My very last game of the day, Sunday at Gen Con, it was one of the best games I've ever played. It went left, then right, then center. There were 3 of us, and I had no idea how it was going to end up, and it was very exciting. And those are the kind I live for. You want to finish with that. You don't want to finish with a sort of a slow game or a game where people are having issues or don't really care for it.
Right.
So yeah, we went on a high note this year's Gen Con.
That sounds like there's a good balance there, because there's a lot of games, and we've played a lot of games where once one person gets ahead, there's just no catching them. From what you just described, it sounds like this is not like that. It could be anyone's game at any moment. Is that how you've designed it?
I actually had, I wanted big things to happen, because again, with the concept of you're Captain Kirk or whoever you are, the captain of whatever, the idea is you set up the plan and then either it works or, the ship blows up and everybody dies. So somebody actually mentioned what you're talking about in a recent article that they wrote about the game, and I wish I could remember who it was, but they said, don't count yourself out, because in this game, suddenly you could go from, behind to ahead. And it's true. The game is all about timing and strategizing with the cards. It is all about card combinations. And of course, there's a learning curve. I mean, I think you can win if you're a new player, but you can definitely finesse what's in the deck with some knowledge of the cards that are available to you.
That's awesome.
So post Kickstarter, obviously your backers will be getting theirs. Do you have retail plans? Do you have plans to release into retail at all?
Well, we have a retail reward, which some people have opted into, some that are familiar to me, some that are not, and I'm also working on that outside. So we have, at least in the United States, some thoughts about that, and there are other things brewing in other parts of the world, so stay tuned.
Awesome.
I would love to, I'm close to a couple of retailers, actually. One of the other guys in our Move Rate 20 Games group owns a gaming store.
Oh, wonderful.
So we kind of came to it from that direction. It is the quintessential Rivendell Books and Games in Rehoboth, Mass. It is the quintessential old-fashioned type of game store.
Nice.
It's small, it's very close and full of everything that you would want. We've got minis and cards and things for everyone. My friend Rob, who owns it, has done a very nice job. And like I said, he and the other two guys that I work with were very instrumental in getting me to move forward with this game.
That's fantastic.
All right. Now, what about for us Canadians who are stuck up here in the cold north? How do we get our hands on copies of this right now if we've missed out on the Kickstarter?
Oh, if you've missed out on the Kickstarter, that's a good question. I'm talking to various companies that do fulfillment all over the world.
Okay.
So the motivation behind that is to ship. Not to get into too much detail, but shipping all around the world, it depends on where you are and where you're sending it to.
Of course.
And so you can reduce that depending upon who you work for and where they live. So I'm doing my best. I actually was very surprised to see how much it costs to ship over the border. To me, I always used to think it was just like sending it to California. You just send it to Canada. You're all set. No. Couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, what happened?
Yeah, that's one of our big deterrents here. I think there's a few tariffs on board games that we would love to not see, but
I have a Canadian connection. So
okay.
Awesome. So Mission to Planet Mission to Planet Hexx is on Kickstarter now.
It isn't.
Before we let you go, Jim, what else do you want people to know about this? What excites you the most about this game?
One of the things that excites me the most is, as I said, I've been playing it for 4 years, and I still enjoy playing it. And people still show me things I have not seen yet with the cards in the game. So that makes me really excited about the game's longevity. The other thing I would say is, if you don't play games and you want to try something more complicated than a basic party game or the games you grew up with, I think this is a good start, because I always say to people, but I have several catchphrases. One of them is 2 rounds and you'll be in it to win it. It is literally true. Everybody goes around twice and then they don't need my help anymore. They just play. And if they're engaged, they go after each other like gangbusters. It's very fun. Or they go after me because they figure I'm going to win.
So you've designed it to have a really quick learning curve. That's fantastic.
Yeah. But also like full of fun. I think that people get tense sometimes when they move into a new level of difficulty with their gaming. So everything about this game defuses that. The art does, the silliness of what you can do with the cards. For example, one card that I love to play early in the game is called the Squirrel Head Nebula, and you land there and can bring somebody over and get a reward, and then they can, and then they can. So everybody piles up on it, and everybody on top of it saying, "What happened?" But I thought that was great, whatever it was. And there's a picture of a squirrel made out of stars, and also an acorn made out of stars right in front of it. So that sort of thing. Relax, have fun. Remember why you played games in the first place.
Games are all about having fun. And it sounds like Mission to Planet Hexx is no different. It sounds great. I'm excited.
Congratulations on meeting your goal. And Jim, thank you so much for joining us on Kicking Tables.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.